Hello and good evening. You are with me live on our Big Live segment, and today we've got a special guest all the way from the Borneo states of Malaysia, and we're going to be talking about an interesting topic, which is election in Sarawak without Undi18. And to speak or elaborate further on this matter together with me who's going to be joining with me today is the DAP Batu Kitang chairman, and he's also the Stampin chairman for DAPSI. And without further ado, let me welcome my guest for today, Abdul Aziz Isa.
Thank you for having me today.
How are you, Mr. Abdul Aziz Isa? Is it okay if I call you Aziz?
Yeah, sure. You can call me Aziz.
All right. So, how are you doing, Aziz? How is Sarawak doing?
I'm personally, for my part, I'm doing it. Perfectly. I mean, fine, doing great here. Excited to go for the next round of the election, and Sarawak is ever ready to get rid the ruling party.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. So, Aziz, maybe you would want to tell us a bit about yourself to our viewers. From my understanding, I already know that you were a politician. You've been in the game for quite some time now. You even ran for elections prior to this. Previously, you ran for election. You were also a special officer, one of the member of parliaments. So, in brief, what could you tell us about yourself, so that our viewers know why we are having this conversation? Because I understand that you will be participating in this election. But before we go to that, tell us, who is Abdul Aziz Isa from DAP Sarawak?
Alright. Okay, so who is Abdul Aziz Isa? Right. My name is Abdul Aziz Isa bin Marindo. I'm 32 years old. I graduated my first degree. I graduated in Bachelor of Social Science, majoring in Politics and Government Studies. I just completed my second degree in Bachelor of Laws from University of London, and currently I'm doing my diploma in accounting. For my participation in politics, my political backgrounds, I born in PBB family. They are the pioneer of PBB in Sarawak. And since the inception of the PBB in Sarawak, my family has been very steadfast supporters of PBB, even the members of PBB. But however, I choose to join DAP because I believe in the struggles of Malaysian for Malaysia, regardless of their racial background, religious convictions, or political affiliations. Furthermore, PBB is not really connected to me, as I am mixed blood. You can see here what I wear today is one of the beads from the Kayan community. So my father is a mixed blood. My father's grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was a Malay, and then my paternal grandma is a Melanau mixed Kayan, and this is part of the Kayan community beads. And then my mom's father was a Iban, and my mom's mother is a Selako. Selako is part of the Bidayuh community in Sarawak. And I've been joining DAP since 2013, while waiting for my graduation, so my convocation. So I've been in politics for like officially and not officially somewhere around 8 years. And I contested in DAP, under DAP for Batu Kitang at the age of 26 years old. And today, DAP has announced the candidate's name. However, we are not going to announce the names for my side. So I was going to run for second time this time around. And I love to eat foods. I love to eat local cuisines. My mother tongue is Iban. My mother tongue is not Malay, although my name is Abdul Aziz, but my mother tongue is Iban. And I'm very liberal. I'm very liberal and very moderate, progressive type of person.
Okay, so that was a brief introduction into Abdul Aziz Isa. So let me get this straight. DAP has made some announcements, but that does not include for your area. But you also said you are going to be contesting. So can I assume that you will be contesting, which is guaranteed, but it's just that you are not revealing for which state seat yet? Is that the case now?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so in that case, will it be okay if BBTV says congratulations on your nominations, on your nomination to be? It's just that we don't know which seat yet, right?
Yeah, yes, correct. It's true that because DAP today we have just announced 18 seats for DAP. We were given by the under Pakatan Harapan, PKR allocated 47 seats, Amanah 9 seats, and DAP 26 seats. However, today DAP's Sarawak chairman announced only 18 candidates, and they will be given watika already. To receive the watika from the party chairmen. However, the party chairman haven't announced the remaining 8 seats, namely Padungan, Pending, Kota Sentosa, Batu Kitang, Batu Kawah, Setakan, Dudong, and Bawang Asan. The reason for not announcing the remaining 8 seats is because this is one of the strategic move by DAP Sarawak, and who going to contest in which seats will be secret and will be close to our chest lah. So we were not going to reveal it until before the nomination day. So people can speculate where I'm going to contest, whether Batu Kitang or Kota Sentosa or Batu Kawah or Padungan or Pending. However, I can assure that the parties have given me full trust to work on particular seats, and there will be no negotiable for that particular seat.
I see. Okay, so you will be in one of those 8 seats once it's announced by the chairman. And let's dive straight into the topic, the subject matter. Election in Sarawak is going to be without Undi18. That's about 150,000 or 120,000 to 150,000 youth who are going to be disenfranchised. What do you have to say about that? Are you disappointed? Were you expecting them to be involved in this election for you to at least be of advantages? So what's going on, Aziz, with this decision? How's DAP handling it, or how is Pakatan Harapan handling the fact that about 120 to 150,000 disenfranchised youth will not be participating in this?
Definitely, we feel like this is one of the most this is the biggest disappointment on part of the GPS government, because they have the prerogative to call the election on until the emergency being lifted by next year, because according to the ordinance, Sarawak being given 6 months for emergency orders under emergency orders. However, they can wait it until February 2022 in order to give ways for opportunity for the Undi18 to cast their votes, to be entitled to votes. However, I cannot comprehend the reason given by caretaker Chief Minister Abang Johari. He said that he is in injury time. If he did not call election, people will say he has no mandate. Even if he called election, people will say he's scared. But I can say that actually GPS is really scared with the Undi18. Not just Undi18. They're even scared with the Dayak votes, and they're even scared with the Chinese votes. For example, they know it very well. They have been through many elections, not just general elections, even state elections. They know that if they dissolve the DUN for this particular date, and then when the EC will convene the meeting, and then when the EC will announce the nomination date and the voting date, they know this very well, and they have people in EC to advise them. However, they just pretend in public saying that we are injury time. For me, I'm sorry to say, I'm going to say it frankly, their logic is totally bullshit. I mean, totally bullshit and nonsense. I can't comprehend the logic behind this. You see, they're not going to call the election after Christmas, knowing the fact that the Dayak will come back to vote. Because if you call the election after the Christmas, meaning to say most of the Dayak in Chinese we say besong. They don't like with the current GPS government, especially on the policy. So they were not going to be their votes were not favor to the GPS. I mean the government of the day. That's number one. Number two, if they have to wait for the emergency to be lifted on 2nd of February 2022, it would be, it's like you are killing yourself already. It's like a political suicide for GPS, knowing the fact that the Chinese will be besong or they're definitely not in favor with the GPS. And then furthermore, with Undi18. So it's not just about they're afraid of Undi18, they're afraid of Dayak votes, especially among the Bidayuh community, and they're also afraid of the Chinese votes. So I believe that this, they said, of course, they said that if we are afraid of Undi18, we were not going to amend the state constitution to allow people at the age of 18 to cast their vote. It's true. Those who study the law, they know that you can amend the law ordinance anytime you want. But the question is that when the law be gazetted, they can amend the law, the constitution, maybe last year or early this year. But the thing is that the question is when the law, the approved bill be gazetted into law to come into force. So I believe the GPS is trying to beating around the bush. They expect the people outside there are still living in not well informed of this, but I believe Sarawakians they are well educated nowadays, so we're not going to buy the reasons given by the chief ministers.
I see. So Aziz, you mentioned that the Dayak and the Chinese voters will not be favouring for GPS this time around, or you are saying that GPS is afraid of the votes for Dayak and Chinese. So now, putting Undi18 aside, irregardless whether or not Undi18 or the people who are supposed to be eligible to vote, regardless whether they're going to be participating or not, it seems to me that you're saying that GPS has got a major threat from the Chinese voters and the Dayak community. So how prepared has DAP been, or what are DAP's preparedness, Pakatan Harapan's preparedness level to absorb these voters, Chinese and Dayak voters, to influence them or to let them know why PH or DAP is a better choice for governance? How has that been going on over the past couple of months, past couple of years, or even maybe from the last election? Chinese voters and Dayak voters, are they with Pakatan Harapan solidly?
I cannot say that with Pakatan Harapan solidly, but we can see the sentiment on the ground. The vast majority of the voters is not in favor with GPS government. We can see it from the Facebook. Especially, I can give you examples. When Tok Nan held the position as the chief minister, I can give you example like out of 100 comments. When he came out in the news, his news came out in the media or in social media. Out of 100 comments, I can say that 90% people in Sarawak supported Adana Satem. That one we cannot deny. Although we are opposition, but we do believe the Adana Satem. On that part, we never underestimate Adana Satem popularity. However, when Abang Jo took over the chief ministership, I can say that the comments become the other way around. Out of 100 comments, 90% were totally definitely give negative feedbacks to Abang Jo. 10% only they're like apple polishing Abang Jo lah. So you can see the change of people's sentiment in Sarawak. That's why I said in 2018, when I gave ceramah in front of the members of the public, I said that this time around, trust me, since Abang Jo is the chief minister, we will definitely lose at least one seat, which is Puncak Borneo. And what I predicted happens to be true, comes true. And when I said that if the PBB lose at least one seat, definitely the party will take drastic action. What happened was that the aftermath of the PRU GE14, you can see how Barisan Nasional pulled out, BN Sarawak pulled out from GBN, and then they formed Gabungan Parti Sarawak. For me, this is the most ridiculous decision, this is the most stupid decision made by Abang Jo, knowing the fact that if GPS, if PBB, SUPP, SPDP, and PRS remain in Barisan Nasional, this is going to be at least they can stop UMNO from entering Sarawak. But since they're pulling out from Barisan Nasional, now they are trying to negotiate with Perikatan Nasional. Just your logic. If Perikatan Nasional work together with GPS, one it piss off the Barisan Nasional, definitely Barisan Nasional will piss off with this collaboration, and they're going to allow the independent candidates in Sarawak to use Barisan logo, and they can, because Zahid Ahmadi is the president. There's no need for these independent candidates to contest under particular party. They're not to be not necessary to be members of political party. They can stand under independent, but using Barisan Nasional logo. If that happens, definitely GPS going to lose a lot of seats, because GPS logo, they use they call it this hornbill logo, is almost identical with Parti Bumi Kenyalang logo. So when people cast their votes, it will create confusion. For example, if they cast their vote, they see DAP making a good decision. We're not using Harapan, but instead we use Rocket logo. So they say we use Rocket logo, and then GPS using the Kenyalang logo, PBK using the Kenyalang logo. When Barisan Nasional Daching did not appear in the ballot cast, definitely they will say like, oh, I want to vote for Barisan Nasional, but the thing is that since Barisan Nasional is not contesting, I didn't see any Daching logo, so I just vote for Rocket. I might not like Rocket, but the thing is that there is the only logo that I know, I'm familiar of, so they're going to vote for Rocket. But if Barisan Nasional contests in this election, there will be 50-50 chances between Pakatan Harapan and BN. However, the biggest loser definitely going to be GPS. And then, like what I said just now, the potential of GPS to win this election, we don't underestimate them. But it's going to be uphill battle for GPS, since PRS president just passed away, and there's a vacant of leadership within PRS. And they're going to, I can sense the sentiment on the ground, especially among Dayak communities. Their votes were not going to be on GPS sides. And talking about the Dayak votes, I can say that since 2018, I've been doing analysis, especially on the Bidayuh community. When I did my final year project on Bidayuh politics, I've been analyzing Bidayuh pola pengundian voting pattern since 1987 until 2011. You can see the voting pattern. The Bidayuh votes against the government it's slightly increased. And I tell you, in 2018, I've mentioned it publicly, even in my ceramah video. I said that GPS at Barisan Nasional were definitely going to lose Mas Gading and Puncak Borneo. Definitely people don't trust me lah. Of course, Barisan Nasional back then, they attacked me. They said what I just say is totally irrelevant. However, my analysis proven to be correct, where they even lost Mas Gading and Puncak Borneo. And if you spread it, if you divide it into state seats, they lost at least 4 out of 8 Bidayuh seats. Now, I can say the Bidayuh community is more advanced as compared to the Iban community in terms of technology, in terms of their social living, especially those Bidayuh in close to the Kuching area like Jagoy and Viatah Bidayuh. So they are very aware of what's happening, especially in terms of politics. If Bidayuh votes change this time, they're not going to favor GPS, but instead they shift their votes to Pakatan Harapan, especially DAP and PKR. The Iban will follow suit. If Bidayuh leads this time around, the Iban definitely going to follow suit. And I can tell you, if this happens, GPS will definitely going to lose at least 4 seats in Bidayuh area. 4 out of 8 seats. The most we can win maybe 6 out of 8 seats. And that's why GPS is very, Chinese say kanchiong, very afraid of losing the Bidayuh seat, knowing the fact that if they lose the Bidayuh seats, they're going to lose the remaining Iban seats in the sub-rural or rural areas.
I see. Okay, so based on your analysis, you've got certain things spot on previously. Now, let me just share with you the experience that I've had on the ground when we were covering the elections for Malacca. So this is what happened, right? There was Barisan Nasional, and then there's Pakatan Harapan. Pakatan Harapan, there was a split, there was an exodus, and then it became Bersatu, whom later on joined with PAS, and they became Perikatan Nasional, right? So there were three players instead of just two, and it was Barisan Nasional versus Perikatan Nasional versus Pakatan Harapan. And the biggest loser, of course, is Parti Keadilan Rakyat, or PH as a whole, because the votes were divided, and the votes were divided between BN and PH and even PN. So could things like this happen, or should something like this happen in the state elections of Sarawak, wouldn't that make or put Pakatan Harapan at a very disadvantageous position when they could solidly win the votes? Now the voters will have to choose, or the votes will be split between Barisan Nasional, GPS, if they are going with PN, and Pakatan Harapan. What do you think, Aziz?
Okay, the strategy in here is that it's very clear that DAP announced that we're going to use our own logos. We know that the fact that BN logo is this level. This is the BN level. I mean, the familiarity of BN logo. This is Barisan Nasional. Below Barisan Nasional is DAP, rocket logo. Rocket is a lot of people are familiar with the rocket logo. Below rocket is PKR logo. Below PKR might be GPS, because the government over there, they control the media. So at least people can still sense of the BN's GPS logo lah. Below GPS, there will be the remaining party logo. Above GPS is Pakatan Harapan. So why we want to use Pakatan Harapan when we know the fact that if we use rocket, we can win more seats as compared using Pakatan Harapan. So this is more on tactical strategy. This is more on tactical strategy. Like I said just now, if GPS contesting this election using Barisan Nasional logo, I believe they can win more seats. But knowing the fact that going contest under GPS, they're going to lose quite substantial number of seats, and we have predicted this. Even GPS, they know the fact that Abang Jo has made a very big mistake from pulling out from Barisan Nasional. Now, in the event that Perikatan Nasional joining the frame, collaborating with or without with or not with the Barisan GPS. Let's say if PN collaborate with GPS, what will happen? Definitely Barisan Nasional won't be happy with this such decision of the collaboration between GPS and Perikatan Nasional. And if this happens, definitely BN would send the candidates to contest in all of 82 seats. They don't need to have popular candidates. They don't need to introduce the candidates. They just allow the candidates, the independent candidates, to use Barisan Nasional logo. People, rural area, they were like, okay, I don't know this candidate, but I know BN, so I'm going to vote for Barisan Nasional. This is going to be tough. This an uphill battle for GPS in the event that they're working together with Perikatan Nasional. If that's number one, that's the hypothetical number one hypothesis. Second hypothesis: if GPS contesting in this election without collaborating with Perikatan Nasional and Barisan Nasional, then PAS has announced that they're going to contest in 11 seats. Definitely PAS will not going to use the PAS logo. They're going to use the Perikatan Nasional logo, because PAS is going to promote the Perikatan Nasional logo in order for them to, they're not hoping to win any seats, but they just want to test the water whether Perikatan Nasional logo being well received by the Sarawakian or not. So they're definitely going to use Perikatan Nasional logo. They will go against GPS seats. If this happens, Barisan Nasional will not going to contest in Sarawak, because there's no collaboration between GPS and Perikatan Nasional. However, like I said just now, not many people familiarized with GPS logo, because GPS logo is still identical with PBK. So with Rocket coming in, DAP using the Rocket logo, PKR using the Blue Eye logo, the chances for, especially on DAP side, because DAP has been established in Sarawak, has been present in Sarawak since 1978. So people have been knowing DAP for like 44 years, something like that. It's like 44 years. So they call DAP as Apollo. So they're going to vote for Apollo rather than these two birds, PVK and GPS. It's not. This is not an overconfident statement, but this is the well-known fact, and not just is this not a statement made by me. This is even the feedback given by the voters out there, especially those staying in urban area.
So you're very much aware of the. It seems like you're very much aware about the happenings on the ground until it was interesting that you said that DAP is known as Apollo. I guess it's because of the fact that it's a rocket logo, and probably because Apollo was a very popular snack, like a bread during the time that we were growing up. It was always on the television. So now to the crucial part of the election, which is the campaigns. Aziz, tell me how well is the state elections or the state media machinery, such as the television, state radio, is it like how it is here in federal, where it's not really equal, it's not really a fair amount of coverage for the opposition? How does TV Sarawak or the Radio Sarawak, how fair are they in terms of equal broadcasting, equal amount of coverage being given to the opposition and the government politicians? How does it work?
Okay, I know a few reporters, ex-reporters who have been working with TVS. I know even my friend also working with TVS. But I have to be frank to the members of the public that TVS is not going to allow for opposition to have access to the local mainstream media. So I believe this time around, TVS were not going to give any coverage to opposition. We have to accept the fact that TVS is owned by the state government, and state government here is very much alike like UMNO style. They control the media. Used to be. I'm not sure the UMNO still doing that. I'm not really familiar of West Malaysian politics, but local politics, GPS is very much in control of TVS. So we would expect that TVS will not going to give any equal access or coverage to both members of the opposites. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to traditional media, okay, as compared to those in West Malaysia, in Sarawak, 70% of Sarawakians still rely on conventional media, such as newspaper like Sihua, Sinchu, United Daily News, Kuching International Times, the Borneo Post, and etc. As well as the social, as well as online media like Dayak Daily, the News Sarawak. So we still rely on 70% of that. Our Sarawakian still rely on conventional media. However, 30% has shifted to modern media. For example, like Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, but I don't say that. I'm not going to say that Instagram have any influence in giving coverage. In influencing the voters. But we most of the candidates, for example, in Batu Ketang itself, my opponent rely on Facebook. I also rely on Facebook. Both of us did not really use Twitter or this Instagram. That's why you see none of us politicians in Sarawak, they rely on Twitter, Instagram or TikTok. We rely mostly on Facebook because mostly Sarawakian, they use Facebook. So we have to balance it. There will be challenge for us, and it's definitely there's no element of democracy. Well, whoever believes that there's a democracy exists in Sarawak, I think that person must be living in denial, knowing the fact that there's no such thing as pure democracy in Sarawak, because GPS is still very much following Barisan Nasional and UMNO style. So I don't see that GPS bringing any change in terms of them having equal participation in democracy process. As I can say, that GPS is an old wine in a new bottle. Same policy, it's just the rebranding of the name GPS, but the same policy, like controlling the media. That is the most effective strategy by the then Barisan Nasional or now GPS in order to win the election. Like we entering an election, before we enter election, our hand already being tied up. Before we go for boxing, Pakatan Harapan or DAP, PKR hands already been tied up by the opponent, and the opponent can just punch us any way they can. The referee is definitely in favor of the GPS. So I said that there's no such thing as democracy in Sarawak. However, we were not going to lose our hope. We're still going to fight for a free and fair election, not just in terms of the election process, voting process, but also in terms of giving equal coverage media to the both members of the opposite, because TVS is owned by the government. A government operate through taxpayers' money. Government does not belong to GPS alone. If we become government, we also part of the government. We are a ruling party, but whether PH or GPS, the government is still there. So nobody can claim that this TVS belongs to GPS because it belongs to government. No, for me, we're living in 2021, not in 1987 anymore.
Okay, so understand that GPS might or might not budge to give coverage on news channels or also on radio. Where else in Malacca, for the Malacca state election, if I'm not mistaken, just a couple of days prior to election, the ministry and the official newswire of Malaysia decided to give platforms for candidates to introduce themselves, to speak about their manifestos, whatnot. Not a long session, not a long segment, not even a long week-long campaign process, but it was still given. I understand it was a very fair amount of time given, 30 minutes for whichever MP or whichever candidate that was. So you're saying that GPS might not do this, even if the election commission says that this is a new way of campaigning. You still think that GPS will not budge, even if it's the order of the EC?
They're not going to budge, because whatever GPS said is just a matter of procedure. It's not even implemented in terms of there's no provision in Election Commission Act stating that they need to give fair coverage to both members of the opposites. So I don't believe that, because there's no provision says so GPS will not going to budge it unless if the parliament they amend the Election Commission Act to allow free coverage, equal coverage for both members of the opposite, then they will do so, because knowing the fact that if they did not follow what has been stated by in the Act, then there will be a legal cost. There will be a legal cost. Maybe we can take legal action against the GPS for not allowing to give equal coverage for both members of the opposites. So it is a matter of procedure. Procedure can be changed, but law, it requires for the parliament to amend it. So I don't think that GPS is going to allow it. Even if they're going to allow it, I believe that they're going to allow it last minute. They're just going to delay, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, and then by the time maybe the day before election, it's too late already, because you can't swing people's votes in 24 hours. You have to swing the votes during that duration of 12 hours. If it's true that GPS is championing, embracing democracy, they will follow UK style, where both Conservative, Labour, Green Party, Scottish Nationalist Party, Plaid Cymru, Democratic Unionist Party have equal access, equal coverage in terms of debating their policy. No, we don't talk about UK. Why don't we talk about close example to us? Singapore, during the Singapore general election, even people say, "Oh, Singapore, there's no freedom of media." I can cut my finger. During the Singapore general election, even the media, the CNA, they allow both the opposition parties to have equal coverage in the media. For example, not just for the Workers' Party, for the People's Action Party, even to the Workers' Party, to the Singaporean Democratic Alliance, and etc., Reform Party or Singapore People's Party. All of them have equal coverage in terms of media. Now we say that there's no democracy in Singapore. If there's no democracy in Singapore, why the hell they allow free equal coverage for all political parties? So if Singapore, if Sarawak want to be much better than Singapore, they should follow. They should allow all the political parties to have equal coverage to the media, not just before the voting day, but on the after the nomination day, or maybe today. Starting for today, should have equal coverage for all political parties.
Well, we can only wish and we can only hope that they will actually provide such a provision, or not even a provision, just put it out there black and white, saying that, hey, let everyone come on screen, come on radio, so at least the people will get to choose, because we're in 2021. And now with social distancings and limitations in terms of campaigning, I believe digitalizing the campaign mechanism is or should be the way forward. Well, we at BBTV, I guess we've already kick-started the campaigning process, and at least with you, who are going to be one of the candidates for the election, right? So we'll try to give coverage for all politicians from across the divide. Yeah, that's the promise that we hold on to here at BBTV, just like how we did it during Malacca. Now, Aziz,
thank you.
Before we go to my final two, we are going to my second last question of the day. And this is something that has been, in Malay, kita boleh kata, hangat diperkatakan lah over the last couple of days. It is about the secession call. And I would like to bring up, highlight especially Parti Bumi Kenyalang, PBK, had announced just this week that they have filed a lawsuit against Sarawak, United Kingdom and Malaysia. And they say in their lawsuit that Sabah and Sarawak were colonies belonging to the British Empire. And with that being said, Sabah and Sarawak did not have legal standing or positioning to sign on to MA63, which formed Malaysia. And just earlier I had watched a video by one Priscilla Lau, a practicing lawyer, who has also stated that she is the candidate for N51 Bukit Asik. It was a lengthy video, not too long, but about a minute plus TikTok video, where she has showcased or explained ways for Sarawak to leave Malaysia, and apparently there is provisions, or there are legal avenues for such a thing to take place. And they have said in their campaign shout-out videos that they have urged people to vote for them, so that PBK will help to seek the independence of Sarawak. She even gave Kosovo as an example, the parliamentary session of Kosovo as an example. Aziz, what is going on in Sarawak? Are you guys leaving us after all these years?
All right, this question is quite complex to explain, because it requires a geopolitics issues as well as in terms of legality. Okay, now let's say, let me touch on geopolitics, okay? Let's say if it's true, that after all the processes conducted by any parties, that Sarawak eventually seceded from the federation, what will happen next? Are we going to be a republic? Yes, we're going to be a republic. However, the most pertinent question would be, who's going to be the head of state? Who's going to be the head of state? Well, the current TYT going to be the head of state will be the president of the Republic of Sarawak. Okay, let's say if it's true that the TYT, the current TYT, Taib Mahmud, going to be the next, eventually going to be the president of the Republic of Sarawak, if Sarawak happen to succeed from the federation. Now, the biggest question is that, how are we going to to start our diplomatic ties, especially with geopolitics nowadays? China is on top of us, and with America. America would definitely want to have influence in the South China Sea by having their armada or their ships in the South China Sea, and especially China also want to come in. So are we going to align with either China, or are we going to align with America, or are we going to be in the middle, non-aligned movement, or NAM, or NAM? So these are the biggest questions. Even if we align with China, would it be pissing off the US? If we align with US, we're pissing off China. So either way, these will be the biggest questions that need to be answered by PPK. They need to answer this thoroughly, not just say, oh, we want to succeed. I also can say the same thing, but the thing is that what happens after we seceded from federation? That's number one in terms of geopolitics. Number two, in terms of legality, I did explain this last time in front of the current minister of a. Back then, he's the minister. He's just a MP for Santubong. Now he's holding the position as minister in the Prime Minister's Department and Law Affairs, de facto law ministers, which is Dr. Wan Junaidi. And even in front of former SUPP State Establishment for report, Dr. David Tang, Dr. David Tang. They even agree to. They not say they agree. They didn't. They were not definitely. They were not going to verbally say that they agree. But it seems like they agree. They indirectly agree to my statement, stating that if they want to take Kosovo example, I mean this is very very shallow example. If they want to take example, why don't they take this Catalonia as an example? Because Catalonia, they even call for referendum. We're talking about referendum, plebiscite. They even call for a referendum. A majority of the Catalonian agreed for Catalonian to ceded from the Kingdom of Spain. What happened was that the government of Spain in Madrid, they took over the government in Catalonia. They hung on the parliament and direct rule from Madrid to Catalonia. Even referendum is stated in the constitution, they're not going to respect the constitution, referendum. That's number one. Number two, in UK, Scottish Nationalist Party, they have conducted referendum last time, but they lost the referendum. Even if they succeeded, how can we international be guaranteed that Scotland will eventually ceded from the United Kingdom, even if they receive majority support from Scottish people, from Scottish. All right. So that's the thing. The problem with Malaysia is that not just about referendum. You don't talk about referendum. We don't even have a referendum act. There's no such thing as referendum act in the parliament that has been tabled by the parliament. If it's true, why don't we go for one step at a time? Okay, we forget about talking about ceded from the Federation of Malaysia, but why don't we go for, since they're a lawyer, Priscilla Lau is a lawyer, Evolution is a lawyer, but most of them are lawyers. Okay, not all lawyers. Whatever they presented tends to be true. It's about who can give a better argument. Even I'm a law student, so who can give a better argument? So now, if it's true that you want to see the from Malaysia, why don't you take the first step by praising the government of the day to table a law, to table a bill in the parliament especially on the referendum act. So if referendum act approved by the parliament, or maybe you just amend the constitution if you want to make it as a supreme law, you amend the constitution to allow people to do referendum. If the referendum favor to the majority, then the government of the day have to follow the voice of majority. Then it will have legal binding. If you just say like, oh, we're going to bring this the case to the international court, bearing in mind, International Court of Justice. I've been studying this International Court of Justice. No states or say like, for example, like India, they have this Ketelangana or Karnataka or Tamil Nadu. No states bring actionable legal actions against their own country. Normally, it's between the country and the country itself. For example, like Ukraine versus Russia, or US versus Cuba on the embargo, or in Guantanamo Bay, or Djibouti against Somalia. There's no such thing as Tamil Nadu against India, or Sarawak against Malaysia. No, there's no such thing. Because according to International Court of Justice, only the country can take actions against another country. Not a state can take actions against its own country.
Okay, that's very well explained. Thank you so much. And I think we can conclude that the sentiments shared by PBK is not the same sentiment shared by DAP Sarawak or PH Sarawak. Am I correct?
Yes, correct. Because for us, why you want to secede from federation? just because you're pissed off with all the rights have been eroded by the Federation of Malaysia, you want to see that this is how you want to solve issue. For example, you have argument with your parents. You move up from the house. That is not the right way. You have to sit down, talk maturely with your parents, settle things as a mature adult. This is how it should be, according to the process of the law. So if you not agree to all the things that's been done by the Barisan Nasional previous time or past time, that they have been eroded the rights of Sarawak, especially 1976 amendment which eroded the status of Sabah and Sarawak as merely 12 and 13 states in Malaysia, or Petroleum Development Act 1974 which took over the rights of oil and gas within Sabah and Sarawak, or Territorial Sea Act 2012 that reduced the 12 nautical boundaries of the Sabah and Sarawak to merely 3 nautical boundaries, or exclusive economic zones 1984 that has effect on the economic activities in our continental area, or maybe Continental Shelf Act 1964. If you're not happy, then you have to educate the public, convince the voter to vote for you, and you have to convince them that you're going to make change. If you're just contesting in Sarawak, you are not going to make change. If you really want to make change, you have to contest in Sabah and West Malaysia to gain 2/3 of majority in the parliament. Then you amend the Federal Constitution 1976, especially Article 1, Clause 2, which is to restore the legal status of Sabah and Sarawak, not just merely 12 or 13 states within Malaysia, Federation of Malaysia, but as equal partners in Malaysia. By doing so, we can talk about Territorial Sea Act or 2012, Continental Shelf Act 1964, Exclusive Economic Zone 1984, Petroleum Development Act 1974, one head of a time, not just bulldozing everything. So this is, for me, is very childish kind of types of policy. So rather than we just cede it from Federation of Malaysia, it's easy for us to reclaim our autonomy, because if we cede it from Federation of Malaysia, we will not going to know what will happen to our country, especially Sarawak. They say it's a Republic of Sarawak. We are not going to know what will happen to a Republic of Sarawak if China competing with the US in terms of gaining the influence within the territory of the Sarawak, South China Sea.
Okay. That was very well explained, Aziz. Thank you very much for your for the amount of insights that you have given us in terms of the secession talks, and also the views of PBK is not the same as those at DAP Sarawak or PH Sarawak. Now, so my final question. You mentioned if there's an issue at home with your parents, you do not leave the house, and that does not solve the issue. Now, putting that formula of what you just said, rumors are in the air that there may be a secession call, but this is of DAP leaving Pakatan Harapan. It's been a buzz since the loss of election at the Malacca state government that a DAP might be leaving PH, and or Secretary General Lim Guan Eng might be pulling DAP out of PH to realign their political views or political needs with the ruling government of the day. Any comments on that?
So far, I can say that it's just a rumors. Just rumors. Everybody can give up their views, whatever given by, because like for example, PKR have their own factions, right? In the AP also we have our groups, but that doesn't mean that just because of one person of one voice, that it will jeopardize the whole collaboration or alliance in Pakatan Harapan. And then there's still room for negotiation and improvement in Pakatan Harapan. Yeah, I believe that when PH lost the Malacca state elections, it gives some frustration to some of our members. I can't deny that. But if we think it rationally, like for example, me myself, I was very quite vocal in the past. But along the way, I've been trying to think, to look things in a bigger picture, in a bigger angles, different angles. Not just just because of Pakatan Harapan lost the Malacca state election that we need to pull out from Pakatan Harapan. I think that is very quite childish. Decision. If there is, because I believe that we need to negotiate. You see, that's the difference between Barisan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan. You see, Barisan Nasional, even MCA also, they don't like UMNO or MIC, they don't like UMNO. There's no such thing as they're going to pull up from Barisan Nasional because they know the logo itself carry weight to their political advantage or political mileage. So Pakatan Harapan, we are still new, okay? We're still new. We should offer to the public that we are mature in negotiating rather than Pakatan Harapan lose or you should step down. This person should step down. If everyone step down, who's going to lead Pakatan Harapan? You know? So you can voice out your concerns, but sometimes you have to know your positions in the public. If you are an elected rep, you just simply say, Anwar should resign, or Guan Eng should resign, or Lauta or Lim Kesiang should resign, or Mak Sabo should resign. Then, for me, if I'm a voter, this is how you should act. Because you are an elected rep. You should think smarter than us. You not try to propagate the members of the public to support your ideas. This is not the way. We are trying to unite all the opposition parties, not trying to break the opposition parties. Yes, I believe that some of the members pick out, so they want to claim more seats on Pakatan Harapan. DAP also want to do this and do that. And then we lost not just one election, few elections also. But if we just because of one mistake by one person, and then we want to burn the whole house like a pepatah Melayu said, hanya kerana seekor nyamuk kita bakar satu kelambu. This is really not wise enough. This is totally not a prudent decision or wise decision as a politician, especially those who holds opposition in the public office. You should lead through example. You want to become a leader that unite or leaders that divided? So that's my biggest questions to those who are trying to disrupt the unity of Pakatan Harapan. Instead of now we have 4 component parties. Why don't we just expand the main component parties rather than shrinking or just burning the whole collaboration that we have done all this while?
All right, Aziz, thank you very much for your answer. And with that, we have reached the end of our segment on Big Live today. We started off by discussing about Undi18. Our segment was eventually called Election in Sarawak without Undi18. And we touched on a lot of conversations such as the secession call and the strategies of what the Dayak Chinese votes, the Bidayuh votes, and the threat that GPS is facing, election machineries, election campaign mechanism, so much more. And I believe there are a lot more that we can continue to talk about, but we will speak again in the upcoming segments and in the upcoming availability. Of course, once you are announced as a candidate, we hope. And with that, Aziz, we would like to say thank you for your time. Viewers at home, once again, our guest for today was the DAP Batu Kitang chairman and also the Stampain chairman for DAP Social Youth, Mr. Abdul Aziz Isa. With that, we would wrap our segment for today. Aziz, once again, thank you very much for joining us here at BBTV.
All right. Thank you, BBTV, for having me this evening.
Pleasure. And like I've always said, viewers, don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to our social media pages, and most importantly, the bigbluetv.com portal. I'll see you again real soon. Until then, I'm Mohana for BBTV. You have a great evening.